everybody. Welcome to Talking Heartland. This is a show where we talk about back episodes of Heartland TV show, and we are into season 10, episodes 10, 11, and 12. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Glad to be back.
I know it's crazy how just missing 1 week, it feels like so long.
Yeah, like we're playing catch up.
Yeah, you just get used to normally I just get used to talking to Michelle every Saturday or Sunday. I mean,
Yeah.
So I miss it, but hopefully y'all enjoyed. We had, instead of Heartland last week, we had our episode with Andrew Francis, our interview, so people enjoyed that. He's super fun, and hopefully y'all got kind of caught up maybe with Heartland. But yeah, season 10, it's turned out to be kind of a mixed bag. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, I feel like one thing is sort of dragging it down. And that would sort of be Ty's sort of in and out sort of nature. And yeah, I would say this was probably one of the weakest sort of mid-season sort of comebacks that I've sort of seen with this show.
Yeah, I mean, and it's probably partly also the fact that season 9 was so good.
Yeah, we came off like a really good run of seasons there.
Because this just, it's almost like, it's particularly in this first episode we're going to talk about, almost none of the plot lines worked for me. I'm just not really caring about Peter and Lou and their drama. I'm not really caring about Ty, certainly, and the bear stuff. And so it should be super tense and emotional because there's this, accident is kind of just like, okay, we've, like, the last recap I titled "Another Ravine." It's just kind of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true though. Yeah.
These people should not ever drive near ravines or walk near ravines. Never. So this episode, season 10, episode 10, is called Together and Apart. And it's Amy, plagued by cramps, stays with the horse trapped in the trailer while Georgie goes searching for Tim. Ty and Bob perform surgery on a goby bear cub shot by poachers. Peter and Lou address the divorce papers and the impact it will have. So yeah, did you agree then that this is not a great episode?
This was not great. I think overall, just putting those two episodes together, there just wasn't enough to sort of stretch it out into two episodes. This episode just felt like it was sort of dragging its heels. Nothing really sort of made sense. I didn't understand why Amy didn't go to the hospital. Sort of towards the sort of mid part of the episode. The sort of Lou and Peter situation, it just feels like we've went over this like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like the divorce, like it feels like so repetitive. Yeah, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, do they think we're super invested in Peter and Lou? It's so weird to me because they did so little to justify that investment. I mean, there was so little of their courtship, and it was just, they went from friends to lovers like that, and then all of a sudden they're married and they have a child. And I've said it a million times, but when Peter was a stay-at-home dad, that was the best, and they should have kept it that way. But yeah, this fighting between Peter and Lou, it's just not interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like they make him the villain too much as well. Like the whole thing with having a girlfriend that just sort of disappeared. And it's like, well, if that wasn't going to be a thing, why did you sort of make the audience sort of turn on him? And the one thing I did sort of like from Peter in this episode was sort of the discussion of this being like his second marriage that had broke down. And I feel like that's something that would be really interesting to have heard about before now.
Right.
But it just feels like we've spent so long sort of, making him the villain. And
yeah, we had one episode, I think, with his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Right, when that Lou was getting all jealous.
Yeah, I remember that.
Way back, yeah.
Yeah,
but
and it also just sort of feels like we moved on with Mitch, and then we sort of took 2 steps back from Mitch, and it's like, well, he got us all excited, and it's just sort of backed off from it.
Yeah, and I just felt like, Peter, you're the most at fault here. I mean,
Yeah,
you made a choice that
yeah,
your job in Vancouver was more important than your family. And so
yeah.
it,
And it's just like super inconsistent because in these episodes, he's like, because Lou is the one that's sort of putting her career sort of ahead of a lot of things. Peter's super available, and it's like, well, why wasn't he super available like a season ago? Like, the writing is just so inconsistent when it comes to Peter.
yeah.
Like, his job's, so important to him that he can't, stay in Heartland for, very long, and then, sort of the next season he's super available, and he's,
Yeah, he's
in and
always
out
there.
constantly. Yeah,
Is
it's
he
just,
still in Vancouver? Like, what is happening?
yeah. They made Vancouver seem like it was in a different country. Like,
I mean, it's all in I forget where exactly Hudson is supposed to be. Is it Ontario?
Alberta, I think.
Oh, Alberta. So, I mean, it is a distance, but like,
Yeah, it's a distance, but yeah, they're sort of,
that he couldn't get a job in Hudson, that
yeah.
wasn't a possibility. And yeah, like, Lou
Hmm.
didn't want to move to Vancouver,
Yeah,
but Lou, in fairness, has like multiple businesses and her
yeah.
whole family,
Hmm.
where
Like, she was
what
based in sort of Hudson when they met, and he was sort of jumping around all over the place. So yeah, it's super unfair to ask her to,
because isn't
do what
even
he did.
Peter's family in the Hudson area? Aren't they
I
even?
believe so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that they are sort of in that sort of, not so much Hudson, but I believe they are in that sort of area.
Yeah. And I don't see why he couldn't just get a job there. I
Yeah,
mean, she
she
tried
tried. Yeah,
doing the
she
thing
tried.
in Dubai and it just didn't
Hmm.
work.
Yeah. So it feels like she tried and he didn't. And as far as, you know, the only time he sort of tried is when he didn't have a job.
Mhm. Yeah, it's weird. It's just not, I'm just bored. I'm just bored with it.
Yeah,
They've
we're
never
both.
really had good chemistry. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, and even this episode, he's super ready to move on, yet he's also super jealous of the idea of Lou actually moving on. So, like,
Mhm.
yeah, it was just weird. He was sort of pushing for the thing that he was uncomfortable with.
Yeah. So then Georgie goes after Tim to try to
Hmm.
find him. And I'm not sure how Tim would have gotten way over into the weeds. I mean,
Yeah, because we didn't see that, did we? Yeah, we just sort
yeah,
of.
he tumbled off of Spartan, but
Hmm.
I would think he would just be on the road. He was like way over.
Yeah, unless Spartan sort of bucked him, but it doesn't seem like that. It seems like he just sort of fell.
Right. Yeah. And they are lucky though, because he's able to like raise his hand and Georgie sees him and they're able to help him. I mean, this was, I guess, a pretty good episode for Alicia, for Georgie, playing
Yeah,
Georgie.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, sh- she's super stepped up in terms of, a lot of the physical stuff that Amy was sort of doing. Whether it's, the horse riding or just working with the horses.
Yeah, yeah, and helping Tim to get up and everything,
Hmm. Yeah.
um and they never really, Amy's in pain. You think maybe she's going to go into early labor or whatever, and then
Hmm.
they kind of dropped that. It was
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm feeling fine.
yeah, she was in agony for like 2 episodes. And they sort of hinted at the fact that maybe it was the Braxton ticks again, but she seemed in a lot of pain.
No.
So yeah, it didn't make sense that Tim went to the hospital and she didn't.
Yeah, and then we have Ty and Bob in Mongolia, and
Oh my goodness.
so they are doing, I guess, surgery on this bear, and I don't understand what happened to the like mama bear. Was the mama bear killed?
The mama bear was
And
killed. Yeah.
okay, by the
Mama bear was
poachers.
killed. What I don't understand is, since when was Bob a vet? Why is he doing surgery?
I don't know. And why does Ty know how to do surgery on a bear, a goji bear, no less?
Ty knows everything about veterinary. Like,
Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, he
I
knows
guess so.
everything that Scott knows, apparently. Like, everything. More than Scott.
Yeah.
Now that he's out in Mongolia.
And then there's this whole thing where the natives want a reward,
Hmm.
and but then they're afraid of the poachers having payback, so then they don't
Hmm.
want the award. It
Hmm.
just is not interesting.
It's not interesting, and it doesn't fit with Heartland. Like, this is
Yeah,
a different show. Like,
right.
what they're doing in Mongolia is a completely different vibe. It's a completely different show, and it doesn't fit aesthetically or just storyline wise with Heartland, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it just doesn't work. And we also have, like I said, Peter and Lou fighting about the divorce papers, and I guess
Mhm.
I don't understand why Lou is reticent about this. Like, I feel like she should be
Yeah,
more ready than Peter even.
yeah, and it feels like this is maybe the third or fourth time that divorce papers have sort of
Yeah,
come up between them.
right.
Like, it's just so dragged out, and it doesn't make sense as to why they haven't signed the papers already. Like, Peter came all the way because obviously he wanted to see his kids, but that they wanted to do it in person, and it's just taken like days for them to sign these papers.
Yeah, and Peter asks Lou if she's infatuated with Mitch, and he's
And
like
it's like,
upset about the fact that Katie seems kind of infatuated with Mitch.
yeah, but that's like, I mean, it's super none of his business when it comes to Lou. Like,
Right.
none of his business at this point. And yeah, this happens with kids. Like, when somebody new comes in and they're shiny and new, and there's a bit of infatuation. It happens all the time. So the fact that it seemed a little weird that he was so like bothered by it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
Mitch
it's
did it.
especially hypocritical when he had a full-on out girlfriend
Yeah,
already
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that had a key to
yeah.
his
It's so
apartment.
Yeah, it's so sexist to, like, I can have a girlfriend, but you can't have a crush on super handsome Kevin McGarry.
Right. Yeah. And she says, that Katie loves you, she adores you. And it
Mhm.
was pretty cute when Katie gave him the drawing.
Yeah, that was so cute. Yeah,
Yeah. It was a good Katie episode.
yeah.
It's Peter's birthday. It turns out that he never got a rock in the fireplace, which
Hmm.
seems surprising to me.
Yeah, that was weird, and it sort of felt even weirder that they were doing it now. Like,
Uh-huh.
it feels like you should have got one.
Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't. They were like, oh, we
Yeah,
were so busy. The writers were so busy, evidently.
yeah, apparently so.
So the horse that they had is very upset, and uh, Amy realizes that Spartan can help this horse
Hmm.
to calm down. And then I think we basically covered. Amy's kind of sad about the truck, losing the
Yeah,
truck.
yeah. This was such like, I've got hardly any notes. Like, nothing really happens in this episode. It's
Mhm.
basically just like an epilogue of the last episodes. Like, it
Yeah,
just doesn't work for me in terms of like I imagine like the people that were watching it at the time sort of waited months for this episode.
right. Their car insurance must be very high.
Oh my god, so high. And their medical, well, they've got free
Yeah.
medical bills, which is fine. And they put to good use.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd give what do you think, a 6?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah,
Mhm.
6.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
All right. Well, the next episode is called Change of Course. And this is Georgie struggles with a new horse riding challenge. Caleb returns from the rodeo circuit. Jack navigates back to school prep. Tim attends a pregnancy clinic with Amy. Cassandra thinks Caleb is cheating on her, and Jade sees a new side of Clay. A lot going on in this episode. Actually, this one was pretty good. And this has got to be like peak Tim. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, I loved Tim in this episode. Oh my God. Like, well, the quote about I'm all about women and I'm all about women and
their issues.
And their issues these days. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So serious, and he's so he was so on fire these episodes.
Yeah.
I love him so much.
It did kind of remind me of my dad a little bit, which is normally not the case at all with Tim. But in this one, I can picture if I asked my dad to be my prenatal partner, that he would be kind of like this and be kind of embarrassing / supportive.
Yeah. It was so all in, and it's so funny to see. Like, I love these episodes for Tim because it does show how much development has happened with this character, because a lot of it does seem, like he sort of goes back to his old habits a lot and sort of reverts a lot, and especially when we sort of see him with people like Mitch and Peter and Ty. But yeah, when he's with his kids, you sort of see the best of him.
Yeah, and he's trying to make up for lost time.
Yeah.
And so he decides he's going to host a barrel racing clinic for the team and Georgie, and that she wants to learn how to do barrel racing, but she gets really nervous and she's scared while riding because of the accident.
Yeah, it's super understandable. Like, I feel like who knows what's to come, but I feel like we've reached our quota on Georgie and Amy in car wrecks. Like, it's like so. It's how they lost. Yeah, it's how they lost their parents. Can we stop it? Like, Georgie's parents died in a car accident. That's how Amy's mum died. Like, stop putting them through the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I felt like that the conflict with Georgie and barrel racing, I feel like, why is she even doing that when she was supposed to be spending all her energy on trick riding?
Yeah, they sort of mentioned something about this is sort of a cross training thing, which a lot of athletes do. They'll try a different sport in order to train in their primary sport, but it feels like this was just to continue the Casey storyline of her getting back into barrel racing. So it felt like more to benefit that storyline, because, like you say, it doesn't really make sense to bring the trick riding and the rodeo together in that way.
Yeah, and I also feel like they're being very protective of Amy through this whole pregnancy thing. When, yeah, I can understand, obviously she shouldn't be riding the horses, but I don't know, I just feel like the show's been kind of weird about her pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super inconsistent because they have put her in danger a lot. Like she's had so
Mhm.
many accidents. And so it's like she does this like sort of little thing and does a clinic where it's not very hands-on and she gets into a car wreck or
Mhm.
gets accidentally dragged by a horse. So she's had these accidents from very minor things, and then it's super inconsistent.
But I did think that was funny when they watched that birthing video.
Oh my god, yeah, you just saw. Yeah, that was brutal for Tim.
It's
He was
like,
so invested to that point.
yeah.
Up till then, he was like 100% in.
Yes. And uh we also have Georgie getting this strong relationship with this horse, Morgan.
Hmm.
And she does feel very strongly about animals, but I feel like we haven't seen her with Phoenix in so long.
So long, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if
And
something
even when,
happened with that horse or what is
mhm,
going on.
yeah, because even when we do see Phoenix, it's with another horse because she does sort of the trick riding with two horses now.
Mhm.
Um, I forget the name. Is it Bear, the other horse? I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, Bear's
Um,
the one that got sold to the police.
all right, so it's the other one. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, even when we see Phoenix, it's not sort of that sort of Amy Spartan relationship that they have, which is what was the initial sort of, what I sort of
Hmm.
felt like they were going to have, a big epic journey, just like Amy and Spartan have had. But yeah, it seems like Georgie has a different bond with a different animal, every few episodes.
Right. Yeah. And she has that closeness with animals. I understand that,
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's just becoming kind of cyclical, and be nice for her to have an episode with Phoenix.
yeah, yeah, because I mean, it happened again with Ty and sort of Harley. Yeah,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
we had Harley for a few episodes and then Harley just sort of disappeared.
Hmm. Yeah, and so we have this whole plot here about Caleb going to be proposing to Cass, and Cass thinks he's cheating on her. And I've said this, I think, before, but if if the surprise element starts to become a problem, it's just not worth it. Like the enjoyment is not enhanced that much by being a surprise, in my opinion. I don't think it's actually enhanced at all. Personally, I don't really like surprises. But even if you like surprises, if it's actually like undermining your relationship, just tell. Just tell. Don't keep it a
Yeah,
surprise. Who
yeah,
cares?
yeah. I'm not a big fan of surprises either. Um, and I think there is also an issue of the slightest little thing of sorry, Caleb not you know revealing something or possibly keeping something from Cass, and the next thing that she goes to is ending the relationship or he's cheating. Like, it doesn't seem like they're a couple ready to get engaged if she's so quick to assume the worst. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't
because
seem
what
like a
was this?
super strong relationship.
This lady was helping with the proposal. How? I can't even remember. But yeah, she starts to worry that he's cheating, and which
Yeah,
is kind of weird when the whole start of their relationship was cheating.
cheating. Yeah,
Yeah, her
yeah,
cheating.
yeah. So yeah, it's just not a super strong relationship. And again, like with Ashley, we saw nothing between them other than conflict. So
Hmm.
it's hard to get invested when you haven't been a part of the journey.
Yeah. So we have Katie. She is having anxiety. She
Hmm.
sleeps over with Georgie because she's upset their mom is gone, and
Hmm.
she gets upset about Jack getting the right backpack for her.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean that felt pretty legit. That seems like
yeah,
something a little girl like that age would do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't remember that age, but I do remember, starting secondary school, high school for you guys. That was,
Hmm.
a really tough summer just leading up to that. So yeah, and
I
especially
remember
with
my
a mum not being there.
My little siblings, I remember them. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely letting their presence be known. That's for sure. But it was cute. I mean, I really like Jack and Katie. They're cute together. And when he finds the backpack in the hay, it was funny.
Yeah. It's
It was
funny that,
my favorite part probably of this episode.
yeah, me too. Like, I feel like they sort of struck gold with this actress, which is so good.
She's really
And
cute.
they've peppered in all these little these little moments of her sort of hiding things, or having things like the jar, and just all these
Right.
little all these little great moments between her and Jack.
Well, and so then also Tim gets the empathy belly from the birth counselor after he's asking like a million questions. I'm pretty sure Tim should have more questions than the actual women that are going to be having a baby, but it was
Yeah.
cute. And then the birth leader, she says, "You're pretty lucky to have such a wonderful support." That was cute.
Yeah.
I don't think that empathy belly would work though. I don't know. I feel like I feel like it could actually be counterproductive, because I think it could make people feel like they understand when they don't understand at all.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. It's just basically carrying around a bunch of weight. Whereas I'm like, I imagine being pregnant is more about what's happening inside of your body as opposed to just being uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not just the weight. It's you have a human inside you.
Yeah. You have a human kicking your insides. Yeah.
So then we have Jade and Clay flirting, and we knew this was coming, of course.
Yeah.
And Jade admits that she likes Clay to Georgie. And then I think it's the next episode that they kiss, but we get the flirting going on.
Yeah.
Now, are you feeling any more into it than before? I just wish they hadn't started with him being a total jerk.
Yeah, I feel like that's the issue. I love a good sort of enemies to lovers. Especially when it's sort of bantery and fun, but it feels like none of this has been fun. Kind of up to then. She just seems sort of annoyed with him right up until this episode, which it doesn't make sense that
you could tell that's where they were going. It was obvious.
for sure.
I just wish they hadn't started him being a misogynist and being terrible. I mean, because enemies to lovers is fine, but just have them not get along. You don't need to make him a jerk.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole joy of sort of the rake, that ends up being great, is kind of, oh, he's not actually bad at all, that you're actually the nice guy, and I thought you were the jerk. But you don't want Jade to fall in love with a misogynist.
And it just seems like it's obvious where they were going, but in terms of the writing, it just didn't feel very well sort of developed and written, in terms of he was kind of a jerk and then they didn't like each other for a bunch of episodes and now they like each other. It just doesn't seem like it's evolved in a way that gets the audience invested. We haven't seen any moments where they've sort of liked each other or flirted a little bit. It's just I imagine they're going to be together in the next couple of episodes. It's just so quick.
Right. Yeah. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
I would give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right. So then we have episode 12, Sound of Silence. And this is tragedy strikes the community. Amy and Georgie try to help Tim's traumatized barrel racing horse. Jack helps Tim, Casey, and the rodeo community pulls through a devastating loss. Jade gets her pro rodeo permit. So this was an emotional episode.
Yeah, I would say this is the strongest episode of the 3. Another great one for Tim as well.
It is really like, what is happening with Tim? But he has some horses at the end of the last episode that he stores at a ranch that Casey's been storing her horses at as well. And there is a fire and all but one of the horses die. And I do think that in real life, this would be a lot more gnarly than they show the fire, of course, but all you see is just the bridle of the horses that died. And obviously on Heartland, they're not going to have like horse carcasses and stuff but it probably would be pretty gross in real life.
I imagine it would just be horrific and it would smell horrific. And it would be a whole thing. And it's one of those things where it's like a really great storyline, and I'm just glad that this is a family show, because I hate watching those sort of things. I feel like it's so interesting. Like, I love true crime. It's one of the things that I enjoy in terms of podcasts and TV, but I cannot watch or listen to any sort of animal trauma. Like, I tried to listen to, I think it was a 30 for 30 about the horse tracks for the racing, and just like the cruelty and just sort of all of the things that they do to the tracks in order to win. Like, it's just so frustrating and so difficult for me to listen to. So I feel like, the animal stuff is just very hard for me.
I mean, it's tough, and this was, the whole community is just devastated about this, and they're very judgmental about Tim, and Tim feels responsible, even though it wasn't his fault. It was an electrician thing. It's surprising that they couldn't just like run in and get the horses out of the barn. But I guess it must have happened maybe late, or they didn't know, or nobody was there.
And imagine just with the amount of wood and hay, it would have just been like a tinderbox. It would just been so quick. It's just horrific, and I do like that they sort of have that reveal of that it just being sort of an electrical fault. That way that we can just sort of go on this journey for Tim, and instead of wondering, was he negligent in any way? But I think it's more interesting to have it, have nothing to do with him and just sort of deal with this loss. I feel like it's a very strong choice for him as a character.
Especially because that one cowboy claims it's Tim's fault. And so then that makes him spiral.
Yeah, and he's had sort of all these issues before, and it's so easy for him to sort of go to that place of, taking the blame because he's made a lot of mistakes before. So I think it is interesting that he didn't make a mistake this time. He just, took a good deal on where he could, keep his horses,
Well,
and it just backfired.
Yeah, and he tries to work with the one surviving horse, Morgan, but is very skittish. And I don't know how they're able to get that horse to do that the way they do. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, even going back to the first episodes of like the horse in the trailer, like, and just having that horse in that much of a confined space and getting them to do those things, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, so Tim says that they need to push forward with the rodeo and keep going, even though it's tough. And he asks everyone to donate some of their loss. He asks everyone to donate some of their winnings to the lost horses. And that's when the cowboy is like, "Why should we? It's your fault."
Yeah. I think it is interesting that they sort of get across that, a lot of these horses, as much as they're family to these cowboys and rodeo people, that they're also their livelihoods. Like, a lot of people aren't going to be able to pay their bills or live their life just because they lost these horses.
Yeah. And that's what Jack says in the speech. He says horses are like family to rodeo people. Rodeo people are like one big family. So in a sense, we've all shared in this loss.
Yeah.
And they have a moment of silence for the horses.
Yeah, definitely had a little tear up at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like get Jack to see something emotional and I'll shed a few tears.
So Tim gets Caleb to help Jade and Clay with the rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I thought a pretty fun dynamic of
Yeah,
Caleb
yeah.
with Clay and
Yeah, I
and
wonder if we'll
Jade.
sort of see more of that, because he did sort of say that he's moving into more of a coaching position. Because I guess he is older for, the rodeo. He's in his 30s now. And it's like most athletes, it's interesting, like I watch tennis a lot, and the way they talk about ages is so ridiculous, of like this person's, sort of past it in terms of tennis, and they're like 25. Like,
Right.
and the same with figure skating, of like
Yeah,
they're
and
veteran and
gymnastics.
they're yeah, they're talking about a 18 or 19-year-old. So yeah, Caleb's done well to get to his 30s.
So we also have Adam is getting embarrassed about his insulin and being diabetic when Georgie brings it up,
Mm-hmm.
and she says to him, you shouldn't be embarrassed about your insulin.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know why we have that I feel like there's for some reason, some kind of embarrassment. But because there was a whole
Yeah,
episode of Babysitters Club about this too, about
yeah.
Stacy being embarrassed about being diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's just certain personalities that whenever you're sort of the center of attention, they find that very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you don't want people to feel sorry for you or overly concerned. You just want to be treated normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, firstly, I'm still not over Babysitter Club being cancelled, so I'm still
I
mad
know,
about it.
so sad.
So sad. But my mum is type 1 diabetic. She's been
Mm-hmm.
diabetic her whole life, and yeah, she talks about, like, obviously it's quite a while ago, but being in school, and she obviously had like specific meals that she couldn't eat, so she had special meals sort of made for her, so that it wasn't like overly, it would mess up her blood sugars. And she said that she always felt very uncomfortable of like having to go get her, sort of her name would be called out, and it would, she would just go up on her own to get, this meal that was specifically made for her. And I guess that sort of feeds into things down the line of constantly feeling uncomfortable because of, it's just a way of life. She always just was uncomfortable being the center of attention.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's it with Adam. And he kind of comes around by the end, realizes that you shouldn't be embarrassed about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have Georgie wanting to ride Morgan. Amy says no. But we also have Georgie getting nervous about this relationship between Jade and Clay, and Jade and Clay end up drinking with the Cowboys, and Jade gets really sick. So then Georgie accuses Clay of drugging Jade.
Yeah, this was weird. Yeah. It's also funny that they never mention that it's obviously like moonshine, like they never say the word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that's just like a thing that they had to like censor that or something. I don't know. But yeah, it seemed a little weird that this is the way they went. It feels like they sometimes go out of their way to make Jade really irresponsible. And
But
they do
then
it
they
sort of
like blamed it on, it was almost like, were they going a date rape plot line, but then like
Mhm.
didn't? Because that's what it almost felt like with these sort of predatory, weird cowboys.
Yeah,
But then it was just like,
cowboys.
it wasn't. It was just like
Yeah,
Jade getting drunk.
yeah, Jade getting drunk, because they sort of made out like this was some concoction that they made, or
Mm-hmm.
it was obviously just moonshine, but they made it seem like it was alcohol that was sort of dosed with something.
Yeah. And then the news lady is mad because she can't do the piece on Jade because Jade is sick. But
Huh.
she's just had this incredible, like, moving town rodeo moment. Like,
Yeah.
I think which is way more interesting than anything that Jade would have done.
Yeah, and Tim points that out, like, you're sort of spoiled for choice here in terms of, feel good stories.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, in the end, I ended up liking the Clay and Jade kiss in that whole moment, but because it was like more innocent than this like weird getting her drunk kind of phase.
Yeah, I'm a little like thrown in terms of Georgie. Are we supposed to like feel that she's bothered by their relationship? Like,
it seems like she was definitely. I mean, sure, she's accusing him of drugging her.
Yeah, it just seems a little weird. And then we have sort of the end, the end of the episode with Adam seeing their conversation, and
that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. I'm like, are they like doing like a weird love triangle thing here, or what's happening? A weird love square?
Love square. But like Georgie seems way too young.
Way too young, yeah.
For anything with Clay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird because we forget that Georgie and Jade are friends, but Jade is a lot older.
Yeah, she's like 2 or 3 years older, which is a lot when you're that young.
Right. Yeah, at least. And we do get a scene between Casey and Tim, which was nice at the end. And then we also have Amy and Ty talking, and Ty says that he has her shirt to make her feel close to him, and she gets out his shirt, so he sleeps with that. But he just needs to come home. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so inconsistent in terms of like the location, and you can obviously tell which parts are, filmed in Mongolia and which parts are, just like a basic backdrop. Like, it's so, it's just frustrating and really dragging down the entire season.
Yeah,
but it feels like that's sort of across the board in terms of like the people that have been commenting on the videos. It feels like that's how a lot of the fans felt.
Yeah, people have been saying, "Oh, just fast forward those parts," which I agree.
We don't have that option, Rachel.
That's what I would have done too. But what would you give this episode? Would you give it an 8?
Yeah, I would say an 8,
8.5?
just because I liked a lot of the Tim stuff was just.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Tim.
I just hope they don't do the same thing they done the last time of like giving us a bunch of really good Tim episodes and then making him a jerk again.
I think they probably will, though.
Probably.
I think so. But maybe we should get Chris Potter on the podcast, because this is as good a run as Tim's ever gonna have. I'll reach out and see. But there we go. Let us know what you think of these 3 episodes. Did you like them, not like them? We'd love to hear your comments. We really appreciate the comments. And Michelle, how can people follow you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Please check that out. Also, make sure you are following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. It really helps us so, so much. Thank you so much to anybody who's done that. Also, we have our patron group and merch store, so please check all the information out. That will be in the description. Please like this video if you are listening on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.